Hello everybody, my name is Alex, and in today's video I want to talk about the new Crash Bandicoot game and my thoughts right now on the possibility of it having timed exclusivity on the PlayStation 5. Now yes, I have covered this topic before, and a lot of other people have, but events in recent weeks and also a lot of the stuff that's come to my attention recently as well has sort of changed my thinking on this, so I thought I'd make a video on it. Now after I've covered whether I think PlayStation exclusivity is likely for the new Crash game, I'm going to move on and talk about why I do not want to see it. So if all that sounds good to you, make sure that you hit the like button on this video and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Let's dive in. So to start off with, I want to just run over a couple of quick notes. So the first one, again, we are working on the presumption that a new Crash game will come and that it will likely launch for the next generation of consoles. No guarantees with that, but for this video we're working on that presumption. And the second thing is that I will be referring to such Crash game as Crash 4. Now I know that's not technically correct and it will upset some people greatly, but for the purposes of this video it just makes things easier. So the starting point for this video, let's have a look at where I pretty much ended my opinions last time I covered this topic. So in the last video I did, I said I expect Crash 4 to have some PlayStation exclusivity in the form of things like 1 or 2 exclusive levels, possibly an exclusive soundtrack, or maybe even things like character skins. But in that video, I was quite sure that the whole game would not be exclusive to PlayStation for any amount of time. Now, although I'm still sort of hopeful this won't be the case, as I said at the beginning, further research and recent events have knocked my belief in this. So why exactly has my thinking changed on this? Well, before we go into my big reason which really changed everything I thought, one thing I want to mention is that not so long ago, Canadian Guy did a video on this exact topic, and in that video he mentioned a lot of things. But the big sort of thing I took away from it was that Sony and Activision, obviously Sony who are behind PlayStation and Activision who are behind Crash Bandicoot, are very much aligned with each other and have quite a good relationship. Activision's independent, but it does align itself a lot with PlayStation. For example, one of the things Canadian Guy touched on was the Sony Activision promotional contract. Now this means wherever Activision stuff is sort of promoted, the vast majority of the time it has to be promoted alongside the PlayStation first and foremost, which if you look back at the old Call of Duties and the Crash promotion stuff, you will see it's very much aligned with PlayStation. Now this brings me on to my wider point, and that's that Activision and Sony have a strong promotional relationship, but in recent times that relationship has dived deeper into exclusivity content, and content which is timed exclusive to PlayStation. Now I'm not even talking about the Insane trilogy, I'm not even talking about the CTR track and skins and stuff, because although they were big, they were nowhere near as big really as a brand new Crash game would be, and also the other thing I'm going to talk about. Now the other thing I'm going to talk about is Call of Duty, and I know some of you are like, don't talk about Call of Duty, don't talk about Call of Duty, don't talk about Call of Duty, but it's important, and it's important because Call of Duty is one of Activision's biggest series, it really is. But another one of Activision's biggest series these days is Crash Bandicoot. They are two of the big series for Activision. So if one thing's happening with one of them, for example, if one thing's happening with Call of Duty, there's a pretty decent chance, or at least some chance, that that will be replicated with what is happening with Crash Bandicoot. Now the problem here for people who do not want Crash 4 to have timed exclusivity or any exclusivity at all with the PlayStation is that Call of Duty keeps getting timed exclusive content for PlayStation. It just keeps happening. For example, last year when the last COD game launched, Spec Ops Survival Mode was made exclusive to PlayStation players, and recently the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered campaign was also made PlayStation exclusive for a month. This seems to be a growing thing between Activision and Sony, and my fear here is that it's not that Crash 4 will be completely exclusive to PlayStation forever, because I don't think that will happen. My fear is that Crash 4 will be timed exclusive to PlayStation. In my opinion, Sony will 100% have wanted such timed exclusivity with the new Crash game, and there's a good chance they will have pursued it like a dog with a bone. Like, just think about how big that could be an exclusive Crash 5 game on PlayStation. Can you imagine how successful that could be? Launch titles are massive anyway, but just that nostalgic feeling. Crash is back. Crash and PlayStation are back together. That will sell games, that will sell consoles, and I'm convinced that Sony will really want that. For Activision too, this could work quite well for a number of reasons. The first one is that Crash 4 would undoubtedly sell incredibly well as a PlayStation exclusive. The first reason to say on this is that launch titles usually do sell really well because there's not too many games around, and also that whole hype about Crash and PlayStation being exclusive again, I think that will resonate well with the average PlayStation player, especially when there's not too many new games out there to buy. The other thing I would mention is that if Sony are willing to pay for this, it could definitely be worth it for Activision. And as we've seen, they're willing to do exclusive content with Call of Duty, so if Sony are willing to pay big money for this, it could happen. I really do think it could happen. I know one of the counter arguments to everything I've said here is that, well, surely it will sell better across a number of platforms, Alex, so surely they'd release it on more platforms to start with. And I do agree with this idea to a certain extent, but the thing that's becoming more and more apparent to me is that, yes, it probably would, but will you still buy it? If you're an Xbox, will you still buy it a year down the line? Will you still buy it 6 months down the line? I think a lot of people still would. I think they will make those sales up later on down the line, because people on Switch and Xbox, I don't think they'll be done with the series. A lot of them, I think they'll just have to wait. And a lot of people that maybe buy the game on PlayStation might then pick it up on Switch later on anyway if it's released at a different time, so there is a trade-off there. Maybe overall you might lose out on a few sales. Some people thinking, it's PlayStation exclusive, screw them, I'm not going to buy it. But I think a lot of people will still buy it, and I think people will buy it twice on multiple platforms like PlayStation and Switch because they are very different. Now, although I guess in this video it does sound a bit like I'm saying, PlayStation exclusivity is inevitable, I do not think that at all. I'm not convinced either way. Like, the purpose of this video is just to show that my mind frame has changed from I don't think it will happen to I very much think it could happen. Whether it does or not, time will tell. But one thing I am sure on is that I do not want it to happen, and I'll tell you why. The first reason is that although I do not think that making the new Crash game a timed exclusive for PlayStation will halt the new fan momentum of the Crash series, I really do not think that will be a thing. I just think overall it will still be more beneficial not to exclude anybody. I think there's a lot of love for this game from Xbox players, from Switch players, and obviously from PC players, but it's obviously doubtful it'll come out on PC straight away. But for them Xbox and Switch players especially, it would be a shame to sort of exclude them, and I don't think that's necessarily massively beneficial long term. The second thing I would say is this is very much from a personal level, because I talk to a lot of people in the comments. Your comments mean an awful lot to me, and many people have said, please don't be PlayStation exclusive, because then they will sort of feel excluded, they feel they can't play the game, they feel left out, and I don't want to see people who love this community and love these games feeling left out and having to wait for a timed exclusive. I guess it's sort of similar for people who won't be able to get the next gen straight away as well. You know, if this game is PS5 exclusive, for example, and there's not a PS4 port, then a lot of people will feel left out. So it is kind of a weird time right now, seeing exactly what form this game will take and what platforms it will be on. So there you have it. That's why I think PlayStation exclusivity for Crash 4 is more likely than I did the last video I made. But what do you think? Do you think the new Crash game will be PlayStation exclusive? And if so, do you think it'll be PS5 exclusive? Let me know down in the comment section below. Now, if you did enjoy this video and want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Alex, and I will see you in another video soon.